All right. So, hello everyone. Um, Dean Howell here. Um, Today is the part one of the interview coaching series that we're going to do. And I'll just move that video down a fraction. Yep. All right. So, welcome to everyone who are directly joining the Google Hangout, and those who are watching the recording or just eavesdropping without actually joining. So that, which is fine both ways. This webinar today is going to be all about interview coaching, and we're going to do this over the next few weeks. And what I'd like to do is, whether you're joining in today or at any point in the future, just drop me some questions you have about interviewing and where you've had issues or where you'd like me to expand on. And we can then address those in greater detail. Today, I'm going to talk about essentially three things: preparation, personal examples, and some questions that either you have or that you want for the interview, and some of those questions that you would want to prepare for. So we'll talk about those, and then we'll talk about when the next presentation is going to be. So today we are starting off with preparation for an interview. Now, so many people in the past, I've run a number of companies, GIS Jobs Australia and Spatial Jobs Online, and I would get resumes from people, and I would get emails from people saying, I'm applying for all these jobs, but I'm not getting to the interview, or I'm getting to the interview, I'm not getting the job. And most of it comes down to preparation, both in preparing a good resume and preparing a good approach to the job that you're applying for. Now, your resume is the thing that is going to sell you right from the start. So you need to have a good resume. Or if I would just say, you need to have a great resume. You need to stand out from the crowd. You need to really prove to the employer that you want this job. All right. So I know we're not at the interview stage yet, and that's what today is about. But you have to prepare for the interview. And you're not going to get to the interview unless you have a great resume. So make sure that the resume is top notch, not just your old standard black and white, listing this and listing that. All right. We can talk about those in a great more detail, and it's actually one of the services we provide at GeoSpatial Connect, is getting your resume to that top notch level. All right. So preparing for the interview. All right. So we've talked about that, having a great resume. All right. So preparing for the interview itself. All right. You're about to go into a interview for a particular company. Now, part of that preparation is to know about that company. Don't just rock up and go, all right, I saw a job for a GIS analyst in XYZ company, and then rock up to the door and know nothing about it. Do research. The web now makes it so easy. Search the company, go to their website, know stuff about them. All right. Prepare, understand what their markets are, understand what projects they do. Even, give them a call beforehand and say, speak to the GIS manager and just ask them about what they do. Most people will be happy to answer those questions, for you to get to know more about them. And you know, if you do that prior to the interview, you've actually already you've made a connection with the GIS manager or whoever's going to, I'm talking GIS here, but you know, make a connection with the manager whose fair chance is going to be on the interview panel. And you know, then when you get there, you're not just a new face, you're not just someone else sitting on the desk, you're actually someone who's shown some initiative, who's shown some interest, and is looking to be a part of their team. So make that preparation, be enthusiastic, be inquisitive, find out as much as you can about that company, take those notes down, and really learn and know when you walk in. I mean, it's as much about you, because you want to get a new job and you want to know whether you like what that company does. You want to know whether you're going to fit in. You don't want to get the job and then the first day you walk in going, oh, this is not really the sort of place I really wanted to work at. You know, you want to know those things before you get there. All right. So part of preparation, that's obviously days and weeks before actually getting to the interview. All right. The next part of the preparation is on the actual day itself. All right. Find out when speaking to the people, or even if you're able to visit the place prior, find out what the sort of culture is in the business. All right. You know, in this day and age, it's not just, don't just turn up in a suit. I'm not saying don't be well dressed, but you know, a lot of, and I'll go off on a tangent, but a lot of, say, software companies and gaming companies have this real relaxed atmosphere, and people are walking around in shorts and thongs because it actually makes them feel better, and if they're feeling better at work, they're more productive. So if you walked into an interview with a suit on and an environment like that, that may actually be a negative. So you want to try and do that, but at the same time, be prepared, dress well, don't dress down, even if but dress well to the environment. All right. So neat casual or a suit if it's necessary. I mean, if you're going for an upper management type role, then obviously a suit's going to be appropriate if that's what their upper managers wear. All right. And mostly in the spatial industry, that's what we're talking about is, if you're in the office environment, if you're a manager, then good, smart, casual clothes is what you want. All right. Make sure you know how to get there. And if you've visited the office before, then, make sure that that's on the go, that you know exactly how to get there, that you've planned for traffic, you've planned for parking, you've planned for public transport if that's how you're getting there. As an example, I remember going to a exam once, and this exam was on a road called Grand Junction Road here in Adelaide. And I had looked at the map, and it was 1000 something Grand Junction Road. And so I looked at the map, but didn't really look at the suburb. And this is probably bad from a cartographer's point of view. But I didn't realise that, over time, Grand Junction Road had grown in both directions. And it was one of those strange things. And this doesn't happen very many times. But at a certain point, Grand Junction Road numbered in both directions. So what I thought was number 1040 or something it was, I had turned right to go down this street, and when I got there it was a vacant block, and there was another 1040 down the other end, and so you can imagine I'm now 2000 houses or businesses away from where I needed to be. And I probably had 10 minutes to get there, and so I cut it really fine. because I didn't check well enough. I didn't check the suburb as opposed to the location. So make sure you do things like that. Make sure you know where it is. Make sure that you can get there in plenty of time. Be early. Make that impression, because being there early, you can get a bit of a feel for the office, the where you're waiting, the atmosphere, and those sorts of things, and you can build on it. All right, so that's all part of the preparation. Being there on time, early, well dressed, well prepared with information about the company, and obviously, if you've got to this point, you've had a good resume which has impressed the people enough to give you the interview. All right, so that's my little spiel about preparation, and it's probably all really common sense. All right, so the next part for today is using personal examples. For everything, once again, I'll use a GIS example. You'll see the job description, and from the job description, you'll be able to gauge what sort of questions they're going to ask you. Now, they'll get some of those answers from your resume. So as an example, they'll say you need a degree in spatial sciences. So you highlight that in your resume, and it would be rare that they'd even ask you whether you've got that, because you should have ticked that box to get to the interview. But, they're the things that you can look at that selection criteria and go, all right, well, they need me to have a degree in this. They need me to have experience in XYZ software. They need me to have worked on these sorts of projects, and so on. And so you can gauge the questions that they're going to ask, and you'll get some stock standard questions, and they'll be, why do you want the job? They may even ask you about salary expectations. They might ask you about where you've worked before. All right. So think about those sorts of things. But in every case, answer with a personal example. So if someone says, say the selection criteria is, have you used Esri's ArcGIS? All right. Now, you wouldn't be at the interview if you hadn't, if that was one of the selection criteria. But what they're looking for when they ask you that question is how you've used it. You don't just want to say that, yep, I've used it. And yes, that's ticked the box, but you've got to stand out from the next person. So using a person, I've used ArcGIS and I've worked in this project and this project and this project, and I've developed applications in it. I've used analysis, and yep, and as Jason's just said, and the extent of how you've used it. All right, you really want to expand on it and give those personal examples of how you've used it, how you've found it, and especially in the GIS industry, in the spatial industry, it's very technical and hands-on. Surveyors are out in the field. GIS analysts are in the office analysing the data, or they're out doing data collection. It's all about the technical experience, and that's what employers want to know. And so make sure that you're always using those personal examples, how you've used it, where you've used it, how long you've used it, and don't discount projects you've done, especially if you're a new graduate. Don't discount projects that you've done at university, because it all forms part of your experience. It's not like you graduate and that experience disappears. It's all there, that if you've done a project to map a certain area or analyze a certain thing or whatever, highlight that, especially if that's the only experience you have when you're new. Highlight that as part of any additional experience, and really concentrate and use that personal example to go, I am able to do this because of X, Y, and Z. All right, and that's what an interview is all about, is for an employer to really understand whether you can do the job. Now, from the resume, they should have actually gauged an idea that you had the right technical skills. Now, the interview is your chance to actually expand on those technical skills and really put your case forward for why you should have the job. All right. Now, when you're answering a question, always look to use those personal examples, as I said, but always make sure that you're answering the question as they've asked. Now, if that means actually repeating back the question or actually asking them a question, if an interview isn't necessarily them asking you a question and you answering. An interview can be, and if you're good at it, can be an interaction. And that's what you really want, is it to be more of a conversation, interacting backwards and forwards, not just them asking a question, you giving the answer, next one, next one, next one. All right. So if they ask you a question and you're not 100% sure about it, then tell them that can you explain it more, what you're actually looking for? Or even when you've finished answering questions, finish asking a question back. Has that covered everything that you've wanted? Or when they ask the question, is this the sort of thing that you're after? Now, the worst thing, and I'll give a personal example here. In the industry, we have a term, topography, and topography obviously is all about the lie of the land and all that sort of thing. And then we have topology, and topology is obviously a GIS term, and topology is about how spatial elements relate to each other. Okay, and so I was in an interview once, a long time ago, and they asked me about topology, whereas I thought they'd said topography, whatever. But I answered the wrong question, and so I'm talking all about the lay of the land, the topography, and in the question, and then they'd actually asked all about topology, and those two words. That's probably one of the big things about the English language, is we have these words which are really close. And when you're nervous and you're all that sort of stuff, maybe you don't hear. So, when they ask a question, you can actually ask it back to them, saying, all right, so is it topology that you want me to, just make sure I'm hearing it right. Is it topology that you're actually wanting me to talk about? And, and they'll say yay or nay. And so it's actually not wrong to ask those questions, but really, make it that interaction. So they're the sort of things that I want to impart today. So the preparation, using the personal examples, and then the way that you answer your questions. All right, make sure that you're answering your questions with the questions, making sure that you've covered enough, or like it's okay to actually have a short answer and then ask if they want more, as opposed to going on for 20 minutes and all they wanted was a 2-minute answer or a 1-minute answer. All right, so short answers, ask a question if they need more information. There's nothing wrong with that. All right, so that's my tips for today: preparation, personal examples, and questions. All right, next week we're going to have another one. It's going to be same time, Wednesday, the 2nd of October. I've just had a question from Jason. I'm just reading it quickly. I've experienced. Okay, so Jason's just asked about behavioural and situation questions and finding them difficult to answer, and ways that he can answer those in the interview. All right, so behavioural and situation questions tend to be how you would react in a situation, or if this happened, how would you handle that process? And I think that's what you're asking, Jason. So in that respect, once again, ask them the question back to make sure that you understand exactly what they're after. Use personal examples. So if they ask a question like, if there was a conflict in the workplace, how would you handle it? And use examples of how you've handled it in the past. And that's the best thing, is using personal examples to take their question and going, in the past, I had a situation at another workplace where a work colleague accused me of this, or left a project short and I had to fill in, and this is what I did. All right. So always use those personal questions. Ask the interviewers to expand on it if you don't understand it, but use the personal examples of what you've done. Now, if you haven't done anything, if you don't have a personal example, or you haven't come across that, it's perfectly fine to say to someone, I've actually never had a conflict in the workplace. From my personal life, I would do it this way. But I also understand that workplaces have procedures, and that I'm willing to learn what those procedures are. So you can turn it back that way if you haven't had the skills. So, most larger organizations will have health and safety procedures and workplace procedures, and turn it back to them and ask them what their procedure is in a situation like this, and how you would use it. So hopefully that's answered your question, Jason. All right, so if we don't have any more questions for today, but if you do have any more questions, I'll put this video is going to be up on the blog. It's going to be up on our YouTube channel. It's going to be embedded into the event. So if you do have any questions at any time, then email me or put those questions as comments in any one of those platforms. So hopefully I'll see you for future webinars. Tomorrow we've got one on products and projects, and then on Friday we've got a business one, and then next week we'll do a similar series once again. So we'll have another interview coaching webinar next Wednesday, 2nd of October, similar time. All right, so I hope you found that useful, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Okay, all right, bye for now.